All right, hey guys. Today we're on Revelation 13 as we continue this study, going through the entire book, verse by verse, with some thoughts and some study. And we left off in Revelation 12, and as we saw in 12, it kind of covered the entire time from the Jewish nation giving birth to Christ, and then the Christian church, the gospel was given to the Gentiles, which became the Christian church. The same, it would be New Jerusalem or the New Israel. It's all the same church, just different people. And then that took us all the way down to when the earth helped the woman and the people that were fleeing from the persecution of the papacy. They were fleeing. The earth opened up her mouth and God's people came to America. A new land was opened up, and that was the birth of America. And now we're going to read more about America here in chapter 13, and this is awesome. Mainly, we're going to see in chapter 13, we're going to see the papacy, the beginning of the papacy, and what it did, and leading up to the United States. And this is incredible, chapter 13. So, and I don't have all the understanding. I can just share with you what I have studied and what God has shown me, as comparing the scriptures and going to some of the correct historical events. And I'll give whatever references I can. I don't have all the references on here. I got to get my studies together a little bit better, but I'm in progress of doing all that. So let's go through 13. We're going to start. Verse 1 says, "And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy." Now, this dragon we read about in the last chapter had 10 horns and he had 7 heads. And notice this dragon, it's the same dragon, okay? It has 7 heads. It has 10 horns. Now, the 10 horns we know were the 10 tribes from the north, the barbarians, that carved up Rome, and it transformed. Pagan Rome gave the power, and it became the 10 divisions of Europe, is what happened. And then upon his horns are 10 crowns, because there were 10 kingdoms. It became the English, the Portuguese, the Spanish, the Germans, the English, the Italians. There was 10 of them total. 3 of them were plucked up in genocide by the papacy, by the Roman Catholic Church. And then notice this, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Okay? Now, blasphemy, there are 3 definitions in the Bible, and I'm not sure if I have them quoted here. No, I don't. But what they are is blasphemy can be all sin against God in general. And its 2 main definitions is to claim to be equal with God, and the second one is claimed to have the power to forgive sins. And we know that the papacy came up out of the sea, because up out of the sea, remember, a sea, water represents people, a highly populated area with peoples, nations, tongues. That was Europe at this time when the papacy rose. But let's continue as we look at this. And remember, a beast is a nation, is a kingdom, okay? Verse 2, "And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority." Now, you guys notice this, that Daniel mentions these same 4 beasts, okay? Daniel, when he saw him, he was looking forward, and when John saw these, he was looking backward. So that's why they're in reverse order. I don't know if I put the quote on here or not. Yeah, if we go to Daniel 7, verses 3 through 7, I'm just going to read the first part, and he says, "And the four great beasts came up from the sea." So these beasts came up from the sea too, these kingdoms. The sea is the highly populated area, okay? They were different one from another. Now notice this, the first was like a lion. He had eagle's wings, okay? And then down here it says, a second beast came up, and it was like a bear. It was raised up itself on one side. We know that was Medo-Persia. The lion we know was Babylon. And then if we look at the third one here, it says, and lo, another like a leopard. That's the third one. That's Greece, which had upon the back of it four wings. Okay, and also had four heads. And we already know what those things are. And then after this, notice this, you guys. I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast. This was the fourth kingdom. Notice this one was dreadful and terrible and exceedingly strong. It had great iron teeth, and it devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it. Okay, this was the strongest of them all, you guys, and it had the iron teeth because it was the iron monarchy of Rome. This was the Roman Empire. You notice this, and it says that it was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. You guys, so this is the Roman Empire, which we know was the pagan Roman Empire, okay? And we know that it grew 10 horns, and those 10 horns were the barbarian tribes that were in its kingdom. They came down, they devoured and carved up the Roman Empire, Rome itself, and then Rome split into 10 divisions, 10 horns, okay? So that's why Daniel is so important to study, you guys, when we go through these things, okay? So we will continue, and it says, we'll notice this, you guys, in verse 2, okay, we mentioned that, and then it says, and the dragon gave him his power. We know the dragon was Rome, was the pagan Roman Empire, okay? So it's the dragon that gave him his power and his seat and great authority. You guys, the Roman Empire, pagan Rome with its 10 horns, okay, the 10 horns that became the 10 divisions of Europe, they are the ones that gave this sea beast his power. Because if you remember, the 10 horns gave their armies and governments and everything over to the papacy, to the sea beast. And the papacy ruled. It was riding this beast. Or this beast was riding. And through the Dark Ages, they ruled with these 10 horns. Actually 7. But and that's how, that was their power. It was the armies that was given to it, and the nations. And they gave him his seat, which is his throne, which was given by Constantine. It was given, what was it, the donation of Constantine, and I think it was to Pope Sylvester. Not an expert in that. I haven't studied it too much, but we know how Constantine, a lot of this stuff happened in great authority. So this was the Roman Catholic Church that the 10 horns and pagan Rome gave all their power to this beast and let the papacy be in control, be in power. Okay, so, and notice how that happened too, because the papacy gave it in I think it was 330 AD, because remember, he moved the capital of Rome to the eastern part and into Constantinople, which was, today would be what, Turkey. Or what, I'm not too, I got to study out the geography of that, because I know it's Turkey, but it's still considered Europe, I think. And we know those are all the Muslim nations. the Ottoman Empire. So very interesting. But that's how it happened. That's how they were given their seat. Okay, verse 3, and it says, "And I saw one of his heads as it was wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast." This is the papacy. This is the beast, the kingdom of the papacy, okay? Now notice it says that one of his heads was wounded to death. That's the deadly wound. Okay, in 1798, you guys, Napoleon, by his general Berthier, went into Rome and took the Pope captive, took him off his throne, and put him in prison. The Pope died a year later in captivity. But they also took all the state power away from the papacy. So the papacy no longer had power. It was their deadly wound. Okay? So when state power and state authority is given back to the papacy, to the Roman Catholic Church, that is when this wound will be healed. And it's happening right now as we speak. It's starting to take place from what everything looks like. So, verse 4, "And they worshipped the dragon." And we know the dragon was Rome. People back then worshipped Rome. They gave obedience to Rome. Once a year they had to go and put something to do with incense, and they had to show their allegiance to Rome. They could worship any gods they wanted, but they had to show that they also obeyed Rome. So they worshipped the dragon. That would be state authority, pagan Rome, the government, which gave power to the beast. Okay, we know that the pagan Rome, with its 10 horns, they're the ones that gave the power to the Roman Catholic Church. And they worshipped the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast? Who is able to make a war with him?" Because he was the ruler of the world. Okay, we know the Dark Ages he ruled. The papacy did. You notice it says that they worshipped the beast. Now you guys know the practice of Sunday worship came into the church by the Roman Catholics. They are the ones, their history, they changed the solemnity of the seventh-day Sabbath that the Bible tells us. They transferred it to Sunday. And they say that because they say they are above the Bible and they have the authority to do that. We know they don't. Sunday is not the Sabbath. Sunday is Satan's day. It's the papacy's day, to give them obedience. That's why we should never worship on Sunday. It's their mark. Technically, it's the mark of the beast. So let's look at verse 5. "And there was given unto him," and just real quick, you guys, that's why most of the world believes and goes to church on Sunday, because they're worshiping the beast and they don't even know it. But that's why God is raising up people and letting people know these prophecies so that we can understand that it's bad. Okay. So verse 4, "And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power." Nope, I already read that. Verse 5, "And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. Now, as we've been studying this, we all know that it was in fact the papacy. The 42 months, you guys, that's the 1,260 days. That's the 3.5 years. Okay? That's the times and half a time. That is the 1,260 years of the Dark Ages. And I love how God repeats and repeats and repeats that. It's amazing. So we know that the beast was in power during the Dark Ages. It was the papacy, the Roman Catholic Church, with the Pope as the dictator. And he was given a mouth, you guys. The beast was given a mouth, and that means he was able to make laws. He was able to make religious laws and have them enforced by the state. It's a church and state union is what it is. And it's going to happen again. Okay, and he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. And so this is somebody that, and we know the Catholic Church, the Pope claims to have the power to forgive sins. That's why you confess to their fathers, their priests, and they can forgive sins, which they can't, but they say they can. And then they also say that the Pope is the vicar of Christ. He is the substitute of the Son of God on earth. So he believes that he's God on earth. That's blasphemy. So we definitely know that this is without a doubt the papacy. Okay, verse 7. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. Okay, now they overcame the saints during the Dark Ages. We all know this. They killed 50, some estimate up to 100 million of God's people during the Dark Ages. So they were given, God wrote about that, let us know that that was going to happen. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Wow. So everybody that's not in the book of life is going to worship the beast. Is gonna worship the papacy. And that's, notice this, verse 9, if any man has an ear, let him hear. This is of the most vital importance, you guys. This takes us right up to 1798, you guys, and what comes after. Notice verse 10. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Okay. Now, this will take us up to the deadly wound of 1798. The papacy, for the whole Dark Ages, they took people into captivity and killed them. And they also killed with the state power. So notice, in 1798, Napoleon and the general, the state power of France, barged into Rome and took the Pope captive. It was his turn to go into captivity, and he died in captivity. Okay, so this is the deadly wound right here in verse 10. So think 1798, and notice what happens also in 1798. As this beast, the sea beast, was coming down, we're going to see another beast that is rising up at the same time. Notice this. One's falling, one's rising up. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. And he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon. Okay, now, last chapter we saw that the earth helped the woman that was fleeing persecution from the Roman Catholic Church. They fled into a new land called America, and the earth helped the woman, and this is how America was starting to get established. Everybody was fleeing from the persecution to be free. So notice this, you guys. This beast, this nation, came up out of the earth. This is it rose up out of peace, and there was no wars, like conquest. I mean, they just rose up peacefully in a land where there was not a lot of people. This is the territory of the USA, North America. Okay? And notice how he had 2 horns like a lamb. Now notice how there's no crowns anywhere. There's no kings, there's no popes, there's no Caesars, there's none of that. It's a free country. Okay? 2 horns like a lamb, you guys, that represents, we know that Christ taught himself that he was the Lamb of God. So 2 horns like a lamb, it's going to look like it's a Christian nation. But remember, Christ taught to render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and the things that are God's to God. So he taught a separation from the state and the church. The church and state should always remain separate. They should not mingle in each other's affairs. It should never happen. And this is how America was founded. We separated church and state. Okay, we were a republicanism, but we were also Protestantism. Okay, our country separated church and state in our Constitution, and we had a nation without a king, and we had a church without a pope. It was a land of the free. Okay, government for the people and by the people. This was the two horns like a lamb. This was the United States of America. Okay, but notice how he spoke as a dragon. So his laws were going to be just like Rome. Okay, they're going to be satanic laws. America's had laws like slavery and we've had terrible laws in our country's history, and they're getting worse. Gay marriage and everything that goes against God. We kind of see we see the lamb and we see the dragon. So we see in our country there's Christ, but yet there's Satan. Okay, it's like schizophrenic. You know what I mean? We think we're a Christian nation, but we look like we're a satanic nation. You know, it's the best and the worst. That's America. Anybody that lives here knows this. I mean, during this pandemic, they tried to shut down churches, but yet they left liquor stores open, and people that sold marijuana and pot and drugs, those stores could stay open, but the churches had to close down. You know, I mean, just think about it. I just thought that was kind of funny, but okay, so let's look, not funny, but I mean, ironic, I guess. Okay, so this is America. We're going to continue all the way through. This is America. So in verse 12, it says, and he, the United States, is going to exercise all the power of the first beast before him. That first beast was the beast we were reading about. It's the papacy. Okay, the Roman Catholic Church that was in power during the Dark Ages. Okay, this is why all the Protestant churches in America worship on Sunday, because of the Roman Catholic Church, the mother church, and many other things. So, and it's going to cause the earth and them which dwell therein. Now, it's going to cause the earth. I think it's talking about the earth. Every time I see the earth, I think of just the United States territory. So when it says, and it causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. I think it's talking about that this is just America. They're going to cause, which we know if they're going to cause, they're going to force, or they're going to force by law. And if they're exercising all the power of the first beast, it's meaning they are going to join church and state. It's going, and we're seeing it already happen. So the church is going to dictate the law, and they're going to enforce it by the state. They're going to force it onto the people to worship the first beast. Well, how do we worship? It's by the day in which we worship. That shows what God we're worshiping. If we're going to worship on Saturday and keep the Sabbath, that's the Creator. That's God the Father and His Son. Or are we going to worship on Sunday and give our allegiance to the papacy and the Roman Catholic Church? Ultimately, Satan himself. So, going to cause the earth to dwell, and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. Now, the papacy's wound is not healed yet, but it's very close. Yeah, so this is why we have everybody going to church on Sundays, but it's not a law yet. They're going to make it where it's a Sunday law, and we see that coming through the climate change agenda. So it's sneaking in, very, very crafty. Satan's trying to bring it in. Notice this, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, I think that has something to do, I'm not sure on this, but I think that has something to do with all the fire coming down from heaven. Makes me think of angels, makes me think of the spirit. There's going to be false revivals throughout the country and false. Not really sure what that verse means. I need to study that more. I made a note though. I could have something on here. The Greek word for that means mega. Think of like mega church, a mega star. It's the word mega. I'm just looking at some of the definitions. Yeah, I gotta study that more because I don't know what that means. I'm sure it's already happened or it's gonna happen, but anyways, I'll look at that more. Let's go to verse 14. It says, "And he deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast." So in those miracles, these great wonders that they were doing, that's how they deceived us that dwelled on the earth. So that's got to be key. Great wonders. Guys, think about all the wonders in America. I mean, we have inventions and technology and industry, and it's all bad. Almost all of it's bad to distract us and to deceive us and to teach us. Everything from Hollywood to martial arts to yoga, to video games, to Hollywood, you name it. So many things. So I'm not quite sure. But whatever it is, it's going to deceive them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles. So, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. So the wound by the sword, we already know that was Napoleon, when by a sword, by his state power, took it away from the papacy and took his power away. But notice it says that they say to them that dwell on the earth, make an image to the beast. An image to the beast would be to look just like the beast, the first beast. And what was the first beast? It was a church and state union, okay? It was the state that put the church in control. That's how it happened. It started with Constantine. Then eventually, the Pope was in control of the Roman Catholic Church, and they dictated through the entire Dark Ages. So that's the image of the beast, and that's America. And America's already been set up from the beginning. It's a separation of church and state. So all that needs to happen is that the state says, hey, the church, you guys are in control. That's the image of the beast, from what I can tell in my studies so far. Verse 15, it says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Now notice this, you guys. Giving power to the image of the beast would be, making it happen. It would be the state, all the state representatives in our government here in America, giving the power over to the church, saying, you guys make the laws and we'll enforce your laws. That's what's going to happen, okay? And when that happens, you guys, the image of the beast, notice that the union of church and state, it's going to speak and cause. Now, when it speaks, we already looked at that earlier. When a beast speaks, that's talking about law. It's making laws. It's legislating laws, okay? And notice what comes after speak. It causes. What is cause? It enforces it by law. So it's going to speak, it's going to make laws, and it's going to enforce those laws by the state. You guys, it's going to be law here in America to worship the beast. And if you won't worship the image of the beast, which is this church-state union, you're going to be killed. Wow. So they're going to make laws. It's going to end. The final one, I believe, is the Sunday law. They're going to force everybody into going to church on Sunday. And if you don't, they're going to take away your job, take away your benefits. They're going to take away your home. And eventually there's going to be a death decree that is going to go forward. Wow, man. 16, and he causeth all. Now notice this. This is America. Okay. I think this is still just America, right? And he empowered it. Yeah, this is America. And he causeth all. Now eventually the papacy is actually going to be in control. And there's a little bit of this I still got to put together, but let's look at 16. It says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Now, you guys, this is really so simple, okay? It's going to enforce these laws by the state, okay, and to receive a mark. This mark, you guys, is Sunday. Okay, the papacy, they even call this, and that's why all the Protestant churches keep Sunday. They do this because of the Roman Catholic Church, because that's what they were taught. They obey their mother. They don't obey God. Okay? The Roman Catholic Church, you guys can look this up in their public records. They even call Sunday. They claim that they're the ones that in fact did change the Sabbath to Sunday, that they had the power and authority to do so. And they even call Sunday, they call it the mark of their authority. Yeah, so this is the mark of the beast. It's Sunday. Okay? Sunday shows that you give obedience to the Pope. Okay? This is just a fact of the matter, you guys. And it's Satan's behind the whole thing. The Trinity plays a big part, too. But notice this, it says in their right hand or in their foreheads. So you can get it in one of two spots. Now, to get it in the forehead, you guys, is to believe it in your mind, to give mental acceptance and belief to it. You go along with it because you believe it to be true. Or you can get, if you don't believe it, you can get it in your right hand. You guys, your right hand signifies our actions. We follow through and we just do it. Our actions, we go and we just follow through with it. We don't believe it, but we're just going to do it. Because, you know, some people are going to do it because they don't want to lose their jobs. They just want their life to go back to normal. They're going to do it to support their families. They're going to do it to keep their health benefits, whatever the case. They might not believe it, but they are going to still follow along and do it. Those two ways, those people are going to be killed, you guys, and they're going to be cut off from the kingdom of God. So anybody out there hearing this, we cannot let this happen. We cannot receive this mark, you guys, this Sunday. It's not of God at all. So it's verse 17. And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. So it's going to come to the point, you guys, where they're going to press a button and all your cards and accounts, and you're not going to be able to buy anything if you won't accept this mark. You're going to lose everything. Okay, that's why God's getting his people ready for this. We're going to be cut off from everything on this earth. Okay. Now notice how it says that unless you have the mark, which is Sunday, or you could have the name of the beast, it's the character of the beast, the name, or the number of his name. Now notice this, you guys, the number. Here is wisdom. Let him that has understanding count the number of the beast. Okay, we know the number of the beast. We know the beast is the papacy. For it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Okay? We know this man, it's the office of the Pope. It's who's ever Pope, who's ever the head of the papacy, that's the Pope. Now, it's a different man depending on what year it is. I mean, there's been probably hundreds of popes. I don't know how many there's been, but It's the office of the Pope. And you guys, now from my understanding, if the Pope has a tiara, has a triple crown, I think it's the Triple Crown, and there's a name on it, and they used to call this the official title of the Pope, but they kind of keep this hidden because they don't want people to know about it. And what it is, it's a Latin phrase. It's Vicarius Filii Dei, and it means the vicar. I think it's the vicar of the Son of God. I can't remember what it means, but you guys, if you take the letters and they all each have a Latin numerical value from the Roman numerals. Roman numerals, that's Latin from Rome. If you add that name up in its numerical value, in Latin, it equals 666. So just one more thing that fits to the papacy. Every characteristic nails it. So many things equal 666, but that doesn't matter. It has to fit all of the characteristics and all of the time and everything. And we've seen that this is the papacy. And there's no doubt about it. And there's many more scriptures that we could go through. We're just going through chapter 13 right now. But so that's it for the chapter, you guys. But it ends, you guys, with them making a Sunday law. And it looks to be like it's coming in through this climate change agenda. As you guys remember, the Pope spoke to Congress here in the U.S. in 2015 on the Day of Atonement I mean, what are the odds of that, you know? And his Laudato Si, this climate change issue, he's appealing to the nations of the world and to the Protestant churches because he needs to get on both their good sides so that they will place him in power again, so the Dark Ages can commence and start back up. So that's how sick he is, you guys. It's terrible. But they hate God's people, and they hate that we study these prophecies and that we know these things. But we must love them. God loves all of them. He's trying to save all of us, you guys. Every single one of us. So anyways, that was awesome. There's a lot more to this chapter. I didn't have a lot of references with me here, but yeah, that's chapter 13. Next, we're going to go into chapter 14, and we're going to see chapter 14 is the three angels' messages. It's the messages that are warning us to not take this mark of the beast, because God's going to warn everybody that if they do take it, there's nothing he can do. They are going to be cut off from heaven, and they'll never get to go. They're going to be destroyed in the lake of fire, which is the second death, and it's an eternal death. There's no coming back from it. So I don't want that, and I don't want you to have that. I don't want no one to have that. God doesn't want anybody to go through that. But if you won't listen when God brings these messages, there's nothing he can do, you guys. He can strive on the heart. He could send people into your life to bring you doctrines and studies and try to get you excited to learn these things. But we, at the end of the day, we have to look into these things. We have to believe them, and we have to do them. And I'm failing in a couple of those areas. So, okay, guys, that's going to be it for this video. We'll pick up in chapter 14 on my next one. So, God bless everybody. And let's continue studying and reading, and I'll see you soon.